Governor Pritzker appeared on CNN State of the Union to support and defend VP Kamala Harris's Opportunity Economy speech, where she actually puts out what her economic plan was. Of course, it was tanked by the Washington Post editorial board. Oh, big surprise! But anyhow, I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Vice President Harris laid out some of her economic priorities this week, focusing on the high cost of living in the United States. Here's how the Washington Post editorial board responded. Unfortunately, instead of delivering a substantial plan, the Post wrote, she squandered the moment on populist gimmicks, unquote. Even some Democratic economists say her plans to target corporate price gouging and eliminate taxes on tips likely would not actually bring prices down or significantly help low-income workers. What do you think about these two policies she's proposed?
Well, I just want to remind you that, raising the child tax credit to $6,000, that is not a gimmick. That's a real thing that helps real families across the United States. There are a whole host of proposals that she has put forward. I know you'd like to go to the one or two, but I just want to say that the whole panoply of them, honestly, is good for average, everyday working Americans. That's what she's going for, is focused on the challenges that they have experienced. And yeah, there has been price gouging. And of course, there are economists who say, well, that's not really true. There's been inflation. But you've heard corporations talk about how they raised prices even above what the inflationary amount would be. And you saw that their profits went up significantly during that time period. So I think it's not unreasonable for her to say that the federal government should do what many states have already done, which is focus on that price gouging. And then don't forget, she's also focused on middle class housing. It is impossible in this country right now with interest rates as high as they are for people to buy a house. And until that amount goes down, until the 6+% interest rate that people are paying goes down, they need help from the federal government.
Let's be very clear here. Whenever they talk about populism, look at the title of the Washington Post review. The Times demand serious economic ideas. Harris supplies gimmicks. And why are these gimmicks? Because they're populist. Well, that's who the people are. And the truth of the matter is, there's nothing fictitious or not serious about this. If you want to know what is not serious policy, review Donald Trump's not serious policies. But they never do that in the aggregate. They all give Donald Trump a pass for coming out with ridiculous types of policies. This is a very sensible policy. And while Pritzker gave a good defense, he did not give the ultimate defense. The reality is, every time the population says they want something, or every time a policy comes out to support the population, we always ask the question, how does this affect business? Or does this make business sense? And if what they're saying, are businesses still going to be able to make the kinds of profits that they want? Look at how they start the article. Vice President Kamala Harris' speech Friday was an opportunity to get specific voters about Harris' presidency, how she would manage the economy that many feel is not working for them. Unfortunately, instead of delivering a substantial plan, she squandered the moment on populist gimmicks. Not one thing that she said was a populist gimmick. Here's what they say then. The vice president instead opted for a less forthright route, blaming big business, because big business are the ones who raise prices. Big business are the ones who exported jobs to then create a supply chain problem because they didn't keep the inventory necessary for having disruptions overseas. That's not the populist problems. That's the big businesses' problems. They are the ones who failed. They are the ones who should pay the price, not the people under inflation. So she, continue with the articles. So she vowed to go after price gouging by grocery stores, landlords, pharmaceutical companies, and other supposed corporate perpetrators by having the Federal Trade Commission enforce a vaguely defined federal ban on price gouging. We don't have to somehow vaguely define price gouging. We just have to look at what inflation is today, what products are inflated, and then figure out that the profit from those going to the higher profits that these corporations are stealing from you. I mean, it's not difficult to figure it out. There's nothing vaguely defined. This is well defined, and that some economists say that it's going to create shortages. No. If you believe in supply and demand, if these guys are inflating prices, then they're penalized for it, somebody else will come along and prepare the price, the product at the right price. If you really believe in supply and demand, if you really believe in a free enterprise system, but you see, you guys don't really believe in a free enterprise system. What you actually believe in a capitalist society that has the ability to gouge, because what you believe in is whatever the market will bear. Then it says they want to justify what they're saying, right? So they say, never mind that stores are currently slashing prices in response to renewed consumer bargain hunting. No, they're slashing prices because they're scared. They've already exhausted a lot of the monies that Americans got to the stimulus that they took back from Americans. And they're also scared that an administration is going to come in that finally says, oh my God, you can't keep ripping off the American people the way you have been. You know the article, Ms. Harris says she'll target companies that make excessive profits, whatever that means. Oh, you know what that means? That you can use computer models right now to see how these guys have inflated profits and executive bonuses that's a direct transfer of the wealth of the American people, the income of the American people, to those rich fat cats that do nothing to help. Now, when they talk about the grocery stores having small margins, yeah, that's true. Grocery stores have small margins. You know why? When you inflate the price of oil, when you increase the price of all these raw materials to enrich the few, the cost for the farmer goes up. So he has to increase his prices, but he doesn't get any more money. He's just passing along that cost. So the people who have pricing power on energy and all these mass systems are the ones who cause the price increase right through the supply chain. So my dear editorial board, get some smarts. Stop buying into what the plutocrats are telling you to do and learn how prices are increased. It's not the fault of the economy. I want to add of what the President Biden's or anybody else is doing. It's the cost that is input on you by the corporate sector. Let's give perfect example. When the stimulus was placed into putting money into the people's pockets, a lot of these supposed economists, they're not economists. They're just people pushing a oligarchic, plutocratic capitalist market. Whenever the president puts money into the pockets of people, you know what the corporate sector does? It says, hey, those people have money. We can raise our prices because we know they are going to have the money to pay it. That is a horrendous thing. Because here is the deal. If you believe in supply and demand, if there is supply of products and services people want, there is no reason for that price to increase. But if you have a system, an economic system that says, I know those people have money, whatever the market would bear is taking all of their money till they have no more, then that is what they do. That is true unfettered capitalism. Regulated capitalism is what Harris wants to do when she says, if you start gouging the American people, that's going to cost them their lives, cost them their economic sanity. We are going to stop that with policy to correct the devious, evil behavior of the corporate sector. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And there is nothing gimmicky about that, Mr. Washington Post. Let's be clear here. They continue. Ms. Harris' housing plan is built on slightly firmer foundation in urgent constructions of 3 million new homes over the next 4 years. She puts her finger on essence of the housing affordability problem, insufficient supplies, because she wants to build 3 million. So they give her kudos for that. At least you're handling the supply problem. And by the way, a lot of the supply problem is occurring because the corporate sector is buying up homes at a cheap price and then holding them or putting them on the market at higher rents. Again, the supply is, we need more supply, but the supply is not all that bad if we threw all these empty houses on the markets. But the corporations don't want to do that because they maximize their profits by holding it back. But that's another subject. She offers clever tax incentives to help make it happen. But her proposed $25,000 in down payment assistance for first-time home buyers stimulates the demand side. So they're saying, well, if you give people $25,000 for a starter home, guess what's going to happen? The demand for homes are going to increase, which is true. But what she's saying, the demand for those houses, we will go ahead and give the people a $25,000 deposit. Now they're going to say, well, that's going to cause inflation. No, that's going to force those people who are holding all those homes on the market by saying, oh my God, we can't keep holding these homes anymore because these people are getting an incentive to buy new homes. You see the lie that these people will tell you, that they don't want you to use your brain to understand. Every time a policy comes out that helps the American people, which means by definition will take off the edge of the thievery of the plutocrats. In other words, prevents them from going excessively stealing the monies of the middle class. We have the sycophants in the Washington Post. We have the sycophants in the mainstream media trying to say, oh, that won't solve the problem. That's a populist idea, as if populism, there's something wrong with it. But again, we digress. Donald Trump has horrendous policies. And here we have, when presented with, what about tariffs? That's going to hurt the middle class, isn't it? We have Lindsey Graham trying to protect and say, no, the tariff is okay, and put it in a different category. But in doing so, he left it open for a very important side-by-side. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
I do want to talk to you about policies. Former President Trump talking about tariffs when he was at a rally in Pennsylvania yesterday. Of course, his proposal to impose tariffs on all goods coming into the United States. Take a look at what he had to say.
A tariff is a tax on a foreign country. That's the way it is, whether you like it or not. A lot of people like to say, oh, it's a tax on us. No. It's a tax on a foreign country.
Senator, do you acknowledge what almost every economist agrees to, which is that ultimately consumers bear the burden of tariffs?
In theory, yes. But how do you get people to change their behavior when they're cheating you? You put a tariff on their products.
I accept what Lindsey Graham had to say. I love what Lindsey Graham had to say. So I'm going to change his wording, though. And I'm going to say it this way. How do you change the behavior of corporations inflating their profits by creating inflation on the products you need to buy? You put a tariff on them, a tax.
Well, and just to be clear, the Nonpartisan Tax Foundation determined that those tariffs that you mentioned imposed some $80 billion of new taxes on consumers. So just to be clear, you would support his plan to impose tariffs on all goods coming into the U.S.
I repeat, how do you change the behavior of corporations inflating their profits by creating inflation and robbing, stealing the hard-earned dollars of the American people? You put a tariff on those corporations. You put a tax on those corporations. So I believe in Lindsey Graham's theory. You change behavior with a tariff. So we'll change behavior by forcing those corporations to do the right thing. Thank you, Lindsey Graham. You nailed it.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.